Creating crescendos with MIDI velocities is a fairly routine task, not only in dance music, but all styles. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways of doing it that are useful in different situations. Here's a simple little part with 16th notes on the snare drum and some piano. Now we're looking at the snare drum part. Let's say I want to have that crescendo from quiet to loud. First of all, I'm going to shrink my view so we're just viewing that one note. We don't really need to see the rest. And I'm going to enable the region automation view by hitting A. And here we can choose what we're going to automate, and it's defaulting to note velocity since there's nothing else involved right now for automation. So here we see the velocities. I originally programmed a few beats up and then copied and pasted, so it's the same pattern over and over. But if I want to do a crescendo from the lowest to the highest, what I can do is drag my first velocity down somewhere around there. I don't want it to start all the way at 0, here around 28 or so. You can see in the info tag. And then if I click right above it and hold the mouse down, I'll get this line, and you'll see that as I move it, it's going to indicate that it's going to scale the velocities. So I want to go to the end all the way up like that. And if I release the mouse, boom, there's my velocity crescendo. So that works great. Now let me hit undo, and I'm going to show you another way to do a scaled crescendo. And what that means is I want to preserve the relative distances between these notes, but just raise or lower them. To do that, we do basically the same thing, but we hold the command key for a scaled crescendo to maintain the relative velocity differences between the events, and the info in the popover is going to indicate that it's a scaled crescendo. So again, with this first one down here, I'm going to hold the command key now, and you'll see it says scale and select. So I'm just going to do a little bit of them like that. So it's going to maintain the differences, but just raise them all. Let me hit undo, and I can do the same thing and maybe bring it down. And again, it'll retain the relative offsets, but lower them all. But for this type of thing, undo, I think a regular crescendo is probably the most effective. So those are a couple of ideas on how you can work with velocity scaling in Logic. This is Eli Kranzberg for Logic Pro Expert.